Chapter 25, Jump Rope Arithmetic. On day 2, the major event was jump rope arithmetic. It is just what you'd expect from the name. The children had to answer arithmetic problems while jumping rope. They earned 1 point for each jump of the rope. They could choose either to use 1 rope or 2 at a time. 2 ropes were harder, but the points added up more quickly. If they answered a problem wrong or tripped over a rope, they were done. Joy, of course, chose 2 ropes. This was her special talent, like Joe's upside down jingle bells or Dana's funny faces. Floor, 4 plus 7, asked Mrs. Jules. Whoomp, 11, replied Joy. Whoomp. 2 points, and she'd only had to answer 1 question. Whoomp, 3 times 9, whoomp, 20, whoop, 7, whoop. She continued with ease, skipping lightly over the ropes while rattling off answers. Lewis and Miss Nogard turned the ropes for her. Miss Nogard was everyone's favorite substitute teacher, especially Lewis's. By the time Joy reached 65 points, nearly everybody else in her class had finished jumping. Ron had earned 23 points. Dee Dee only got to 6. Jumping rope wasn't easy for her since one leg was shorter than the other. DJ had the highest score so far with 84 points. In the history of the ultimate test, nobody had ever broken 100. Whoop, whoop. 12 divided by 4, asked Mrs. Jules. Whoop, whoop. 3, said Joy. Whoop, whoop. A circle of children had formed around her. They cheered each correct answer. Go, Joy, go, shouted Mac. When she reached 80 points, even Mrs. Jules started to get excited. 38, whoop, plus 14, whoop. 52, whoop, whoop. She was now tied with DJ. 100 and whoop, 43, whoop, divided by whoop, 11. 13. Everyone took up Mac's call. Go, Joy, go. Go, Joy, go, they chanted. Lewis and Miss Nogard's arms were getting tired, but they continued to twirl the ropes. They knew this was a part of history. Joy was now up to 99. Go, Joy, go. Go, Joy, go. Whoop, whoop. 29 times 4, shouted Mrs. Jules. Whoop, whoop. 116, Joy easily answered. Everyone whooped and hollered. That's a new world record, exclaimed Dee Dee. Whoop, whoop. 6 times 7. Whoop. Joy lay sprawled across the blacktop. 6s and 7s always tripped her up. Still, she'd broken 100 and set a new world record. Her classmates rushed up to her. You're the best ever, said Kathy. True, Joy agreed. There was 1 jumper left. Whoop. 16 minus 11. Whoop. 5, said Mauricia. Mauricia only used 1 rope. Miss Mush and Mr. Pepper Adder turned it for her. She jumped with both feet at the same time and held her breath every time she jumped. Whoop. 9 times 8. Whoop. 72. Whoop. Joy continued to lie on the blacktop as she listened to the slow whooping. She imagined the solid gold trophy with her name on it. Her picture would be in newspapers all around the world. She'd be on TV, where famous people would ask her questions about jumping rope and arithmetic. Maybe they'd put her in a movie. When she came out of her daydream, she was surprised to hear the jump rope still whooping. 0 times 1,000. Whoop, 0. Joy sat up to see that circle of kids had surrounded Mauricia. They cheered every one of her answers. Whoop. She headed over and poked Todd in the back of his neck. What's her score so far? 66, he told her. Joy wasn't worried. She was sure her best friend would whoop whoop at the last moment, at any moment. She didn't start to worry till Mauricia reached 80. Whoop. 16 times 17. Whoop. 272. Whoop. Well, sure, Joy thought bitterly. 16s and 17s were a lot easier than 6s and 7s. At the end, Mauricia Woom frapped on an easy one, 2 plus 3. She was just probably tired. She had been jumping for almost an hour and earned 211 points. Joy didn't see her fall. She had quit watching long before. Chapter 26, the ultimate test. Yes, that's 2 ultimates. The word ultimate has 2 meanings. It could mean final, or it could mean most important. The stairway quiz was both. It was the final event of the day, and it counted double. The students were worn out before they started. They'd already had the science crawl, right and left handwriting, animal imitations, upside down singing, and blindfolded smelling. The stairway quiz would require knowledge, stamina, and most important, speed. This was Dee Dee's special talent. Dee Dee was a pretty fast runner on flat ground, but she was even faster going up and down stairs. That's because her left leg was a little shorter than her right leg, or, well, maybe it was the other way around. Either way, it gave her an obvious advantage. Louis, the art teacher, stood next to the bottom step. On your mark, he called out. Get set. Louis blew the whistle. The children rushed past him, knees pumping and elbows flailing. Dee Dee started way back in the pack, but besides her uneven legs, she had another advantage. She was skinny and short. She could squeeze past the slower kids ahead of her, and they were all slower than Dee Dee. As she neared the 3rd floor, only Damien remained ahead of her. A man with a black mustache was waiting on the landing. How many quarts in a gallon? He asked Damien. 8, said Damien. Damien was sent back to the 1st floor. Name a city in England, he said to Dee Dee. London, Dee Dee shouted and continued on up. Dr. Pickle was waiting on the 4th floor. Are dreams real? He asked. Dee Dee was stumped. She could hear other kids charging up the stairs behind her. She hated to have to go back. They're real dreams, she said. Dr. Pickle rubbed his beard. Very interesting answer, he said, and he let her pass. By the time she reached the 9th floor, she could only hear distant footsteps behind her. What do you call someone who writes books? Said Mrs. Surlaw. You don't call them, said Dee Dee. You must never interrupt a great author during her moment of inspiration. Well, I think you said the correct answer in there somewhere, said the librarian. On the 12th floor, the man with the mustache was waiting again. Dee Dee wondered how he had gotten ahead of her. Name the largest river in the United States. Dee Dee couldn't remember its name, but she knew how to spell it. Mississippi. Miss Mush asked the question on the 15th floor. How many points on a fork? Dee Dee formed a picture of a fork in her mind, but when she tried to count the points, they blurred. 3. I'm so sorry, Dee Dee, said Miss Mush. She didn't have to go all the way back down to the bottom, just to the 10th. Ron was coming up the other way. Hi, Dee Dee, he greeted her. Hi, Ron, said Dee Dee. I hope you studied your forks and spoons. She reached the 10th, answered another question there, and again on the 11th and the 12th. Ron was coming down. Hi, Ron. Hi, Dee Dee. She reached Miss Mush a second time. What was Christopher Columbus's favorite vegetable? Asked the lunch lady. Dee Dee knew that one. Cabbage! She had spent 2 whole nights studying the history of cabbage. When she reached the 18th floor, the man with the mustache was there again. Are zebras black with white stripes or white with black stripes? Dee Dee thought it was the same thing, but knew that had to be wrong. The first one, she guessed. Was that white with black stripes or black with white stripes? I don't remember, said Dee Dee. Me neither, said the man, and he let her pass. A tall, thin woman asked the next question. She looked like a teacher, but Dee Dee had never seen her before. Strangely, the woman had one very long fingernail on her pinky. Please recite the alphabet backwards. Dee Dee had to close her eyes to concentrate. Z, Y, X. It took her a long time. In her mind, Dee Dee had to keep saying the alphabet forward in order to figure out what the next backward letter would be. She could hear footsteps coming closer, and then Mauricia came up alongside her. What are you stopping for? Mauricia asked. Dee Dee turned around. The woman with the long fingernail was gone. CBA, she finished, just in case. Dee Dee and Mauricia continued to go up together, reaching the 20th floor at the same time. The mustache man was back again. How many toes does a three-toed sloth have? Well, that had to be the easiest question yet, thought Dee Dee. 3, she said. 12, said Mauricia. Dee Dee was sent back down to the 15th floor. Now she really had to turn on the jets. She leaped around and over the other kids on her way down, and then using her uneven legs, she practically flew back up the stairs as she answered all the questions correctly. She shot past Mauricia between the 28th and the 29th floors, answered a question about the different kinds of dirt, and then finally reached the top of the stairs where Mrs. Jules was waiting. How many points on a fork? Said Mrs. Jules. I already had that question, Dee Dee said as she took several long, deep breaths. Her heart was pounding. Well, good. Then you know the answer. Once again, Dee Dee tried to picture a fork in her mind. It was either 3 or 4. 12, she said, still confused about the sloth with its 3 toes and 4 feet. She trudged back down. Hi, Dee Dee, said Mauricia on her way up. Dee Dee didn't say hi back. After school, only 3 of the unbreakables could be seen by the flagpole. Mauricia was still inside the school. Photographers were snapping her picture, and she was being questioned by newspaper reporters from all around the world. When she finally came outside, she was carrying a giant trophy. Sorry I took so long, she said. You must think you're really great, said Joy. Mauricia shrugged. Well, you should be, said Ron. Because you are, said Dee Dee. Mauricia set down her trophy and said, You guys are just the best friends ever. And they held out their hands, locked pinkies and thumbs, and shouted, Unbreakable! Friends stick by each other when one is down. That is a true test of friendship. But sometimes it is harder to stick by a friend who is up. That is the ultimate test of friendship. Chapter 27, Kachuga Boop. The ultimate test was over, and nobody was sent back to kindergarten. Mrs. Jules had made up the test so that every one of her students had a chance to shine using his or her special talent. Anyone with nail clippings? She asked. Myron came to the front of the room and dropped 37 clippings into the nail bucket. 19 came from toes and 18 from fingers. He started to do the math on the board. 9,999, 962 plus 37. He was suddenly startled by a very loud kachuga boop. He dropped the chalk. This was a bell nobody in class had heard before, not even Mrs. Jules. Then came another kachuga, followed by 2 boops. What does that mean, Mrs. Jules? Shouted Leslie. Everyone, keep calm, said Mrs. Jules. Kachuga boop, boop, boop. Mrs. Jules hurried to the back closet. It started up again. Kachuga boop, boop. Mrs. Jules threw open the closet door, started tossing books and supplies out of the way. Kachuga boop, boop, boop. She finally removed a very large book covered with dust. "The Complete Guide to Bells," said Terence, reading the book's title over Mrs. Jewls' shoulder. Mrs. Jewls sat on the floor, turning the pages till she got to the index. The Kachuga booping continued, making it difficult for her to concentrate. She found it. Kachuga boop, page 297. She quickly turned to the page. Suddenly a loud boom shook the classroom. The lights went out. This time nobody screamed. They were too scared. Mrs. Jewls lit a candle. In the flickering light, she read aloud from page 297. "If you hear a kachuga, followed by 1, 2, and then 3 boops, you should..." She stopped and blew a cloud of dust off the page and then tried to find out where she had left off. 1, 2, and then 3 boops, you should run for your lives. A cloud of doom is about to destroy everything." She dropped the book. "Everyone, outside," she ordered. Another boom shook the classroom so hard that the clock fell off the wall. The children ran to the door, but it wouldn't open. "The paperclip closet must have fallen over," said Damien. "It's blocking the door." "Paperclip closet?" asked Mrs. Jewls. She glared at Jason. "Sorry," he said. Jason couldn't keep a secret. Todd, Mauricia, Damien, and Allison all pushed together, but the door wouldn't budge. "Let Stephen in there," urged Kathy. "He's been doing all those push-downs." With Stephen's help, they pushed the door open. Sirens wailed from the closet, which lay on the ground. A smoke screen filled the area. In the light of Mrs. Jewls' candle, they could see that the chains and the steel bar had been shattered. Paper clips were strewn all over the floor. Benjamin and Rondi started picking them up. "Leave them!" shouted Mrs. Jewls. Ooh, now they knew this was serious. Mrs. Jewls told everyone to hold hands as she led the way down the staircase. Paul grabbed Leslie's pigtail. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "It's either that or your hand," he said. "Okay then," Leslie agreed. The Kachuga booping continued as more loud booms shook the school. A gust of wind blew out Mrs. Jewls' candle, and the class continued down in darkness. Joe stepped on a skateboard, which someone had left in the middle of the stairs. He fell, pulling John down with him. Who pulled down Dana? Who pulled down Jenny? Who pulled down Rondi? Who pulled down Terence? The chain reaction ended with Damien pulling down Mrs. Jewls. The class lay sprawled across the stairs as the school shook around them. "We're doomed," Mac wailed. "Look!" exclaimed Bibi. The door had opened, and there was a light coming from inside a classroom. A teacher stood in the doorway. "Quick, come inside," she beckoned. "You'll be safe here." She had a long fingernail on her pinky.